it is in America today to become a millionaire. In fact, I'm on the record saying almost every single American could be a millionaire except for two simple things. Number one, they spend way too much money on their cars. And number two, they get divorced. So the moral of the story, drive a used car and stick with your first spouse. Now, I say that a little tongue-in-cheek, but if you saw how much people are paying in car payments, it's unbelievable. I just added my new slide to my presentation, and it says, turn your car payment into $1 million.
Hello and welcome to CBS Spotlight. If you're here by mistake, you're in the right place now. I am Eric Alvarado, along with my co-host, Mr. Ted Hikes, and we are your friendly guides through this world of insurance and wealth management. And today we are joined by Mr. Tom Hegna, founder and CEO of TomHegna.com. He's an economist, an author, and retirement expert. Tom, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Eric and Ted. Great to be with you today.
Ted, how about you get us started with question number one?
All right, Tom, you're first of all, thanks for being here. We appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today. Your PBS special, Don't Worry, Retire Happy, has reached millions of viewers. What do you think is the most common misconception when it comes to retirement planning?
Well, I think a lot of people think retirement's about a number. Should I have $1 million, $2 million, $3 million? It's really not about a number. The key to having a successful retirement really depends on two things. Number one, you want to have increasing income for the rest of your life. And number two, you want to manage the risks. What if the market crashes? What if they raise your taxes? What if inflation continues? What if you need long-term care? What if you die? You got to manage all of those risks and then have increasing income because inflation is something that isn't going to go away.
So, Tom, with all your experience and your time in the industry, I think it's about 30 years or so or more probably, what is the biggest change that you've seen in how people approach retirement planning?
Well, I think now people have been introduced to the research. For years, people just thought it was about the stock market or about real estate or about all these other things. And it's much more complicated than that. It's really about, at least covering your basic living expenses in retirement with guaranteed lifetime income. But then you've got to also invest some money to protect yourself against inflation. And then you've got to have a plan to handle all those risks that I talked about, inflation, market risk, withdrawal rate risk can take out too much money. You'll eventually run out. Sequence of returns risk is a huge risk that people don't understand because their whole life they've been dollar cost averaging, but in retirement it turns into dollar cost ravaging. And so you've got to, and then long-term care, people forget about that. That's the number one risk in retirement that can wipe out their entire life's work. So it's really about risk management and income. That's what retirement's all about.
Love that answer, Tom. You often emphasize the retirement risks can be mitigated through insurance products specifically. Can you explain kind of why these are so crucial and how they can help people secure their future and mitigate some of those risks in retirement?
Yeah, well, there's several insurance products that should be part of a retirement. First of all, annuities need to play a part. All right. And income annuities specifically, because, all the research of the leading PhDs around the world, and I can quote hundreds of PhDs around the world, that you should cover your basic living expenses with guaranteed lifetime income. Right. But you also need to have a plan for long-term care. And whether you use long-term care insurance, you use life insurance with a long-term care rider, or an annuity with a long-term care rider, I say any plan is better than no plan, but you got to have a plan because that's the one thing that can wipe you out. And then life insurance is the best way to leave money to children or charities. I always tell people, don't leave your kids any money. You're supposed to spend your money. Leave them life insurance because you can do that for pennies on the dollar. And I use me as an example. We got 4 kids. And one day we're sitting around, my wife said, how much we leave the kids? My wife said, I don't know. What do you think? I said, well, if we bought a $1 million second to die life insurance policy, name the 4 kids beneficiary. When we're both gone, they're going to get $1 million tax-free. That's $250,000 a piece tax-free, plus whatever's left over. I said, let's start there. So we did that. And that $1 million policy cost us $150,000. So think about that. For 15 cents on the dollar, we get to transfer $1 million tax-free to our kids. But here's the best part. Who gets to spend the other $850,000? We do. So don't leave your kids money. Don't leave charity money. Leave them life insurance because you can leave them more or you can leave it for less.
Right.
Yeah, that's
great strategy.
Yeah, that's great. We see,
Love the math.
we talk to a lot of advisors these days who it's almost oversaving, right? They're so focused on the end goal and making sure that their clients don't run out of money that they end up not spending and enjoying all of that money they have. And there's this big bucket left over when, like, to your point, life insurance can fill that void very easily for pennies on the dollar.
Love that, Tom. Brilliant. Why not enjoy your money while you got it, right? So, or while you're alive. Your approach seems to be based heavily on mathematics and science, not just opinions. How does your approach really of breaking down these concepts to individuals and financial advisors who may not be as familiar with the numbers behind retirement?
Yeah, well, look, I use the research of the PhDs around the world who've studied it. People like Dr. David Babel of Wharton, Dr. Moshe Milevsky of Toronto, Dr. Menachem Yari of Israel, Dr. Michael Finke, Dr. Wade Pfau of the American College, Nobel Prize recipients, Dr. William Sharp, Dr. Robert C. Merton. Anybody can read their writings, and they're clear. You need to have guaranteed lifetime income into your portfolio. BlackRock doesn't sell any annuities, but BlackRock says you should have annuities in your portfolio, that your portfolio will do better. In fact, there's 3 reasons why you should put an annuity in your retirement portfolio. Number 1, it will improve portfolio performance. All right. That's a fact, not an opinion. I got all the research to back it up. Number 2, you're likely to be happier. The Wall Street Journal says the secret to a happier retirement is friends, neighbors, and a fixed annuity. Time Magazine found in Great Britain, lifetime income, key to retirement happiness. The American College wrote an article how annuities can help clients have happiness in retirement. And so, and then the third thing is the research now shows you're likely to live longer as well. So if you could add something to your portfolio that would improve portfolio performance, allow you to be happier, and maybe even allow you to live longer, why would anybody be against that? I don't understand it.
Right. Makes any sense?
Yeah, I don't either. I'm curious, Tom. I see a lot of advisors, and obviously Eric and I quote these products every day, so we see how they perform. Mm-hmm. I see advisors, once they really start to understand this part and the guaranteed income that these annuities can offer, there's almost they take a deep breath. Like this is taking some of the pressure off me in terms of, we've got this whole list of goals. We're trying to achieve all these goals for our clients. And once they understand how an annuity really fits into the portfolio, that does take some pressure off. And I've had a couple of advisors literally look at me and say, wow, I can't promise my client a 7.5% withdrawal rate on this bucket of money. I'm just curious, do you have an instance where you had that aha moment with advisors? I'm sure you've had hundreds, but is there one off the top of your head?
Well, I think it all comes down to the mortality credits. It's when people discover the mortality credits. That's a extra amount paid in the annuity that you don't get from stocks or bonds or real estate or crypto. And what the research shows is if you set up a retirement portfolio and you don't have any of these mortality credits coming in, that is a suboptimal portfolio. That means it's less than what it could or what it should be. And so when advisors figure out the secret sauce of the annuity, which is the mortality credits, you can't make synthetic mortality credits. You can't use stocks and bonds to simulate mortality credits. And so, right. And nobody's saying person should put all their money in annuities. That's not what the research shows. The research shows between 20 and 40%. I'm probably going to be closer to 40%. All right. Ernst & Young, they don't sell any annuities. They're an accounting firm, but they have really smart people, and they use these smart people in AI, and they try to determine what is the perfect retirement portfolio. Do you know what they came up with? 30% whole life insurance, 30% income annuity, 40% investment. I'm not making it up. It's right there. You can Google Ernst & Young life insurance annuities. They don't sell annuities. BlackRock doesn't sell annuities, but they all know that you should have it. And then Dr. Roger Ibbotson did a whole white paper where he compared fixed indexed annuities to bonds. And he found that fixed indexed annuities have outperformed bonds for the last 40 years and are likely to do so for the next 40 years. So even if the client just moved their bond portfolio to the annuity, they're going to be much happier and their portfolio will perform better.
Tom, how do you advise clients who are hesitant to use insurance products for their retirement planning? And what's the first step to getting them comfortable with the idea?
Well, I just go back to the research. I'm not making this stuff up. I don't sell annuities. I don't sell life insurance. I don't sell long-term care insurance, but I own all of them. I'm not just talking the talk. I'm walking the walk. I'm 70% retired. I have a long-term care insurance policy. My life insurance premium was $226,000 a year for 12 years. I did a 12 pay. All right. So I'm serious about moving money to cash value life insurance to shelter me from taxes. I own 13 annuities. And when people just do the research, just read what all the research shows. I mean, I got page after page after page of proof that if you don't use an annuity in retirement, you have a suboptimal portfolio. Now, the big knock against annuities supposedly is that the fees are too high. Well, the truth is most annuities are not even fee products. A single premium immediate annuity is not a fee product. A deferred income annuity is not a fee product. A fixed annuity, a multi-year guarantee annuity, not a fee product. A base fixed index annuity, not a fee product. Most RILAs are not fee products. There's only two types of annuities that even have fees: variable annuities and some optional riders. But people don't understand, how can an insurance company work for free if there's no fees? Well, here's how I explain it. These are spread products. They're not fee products. So if you go down to the bank and you buy a CD, does the bank charge you a fee? Nope. Are they working for free? Nope. They pay you 4%. They lend the money out to your neighbor's kid at 9% interest on their car payment, and they get the spread. If an insurance company guarantees you 5% a year for 5 years, if they don't make more than that, they're going to lose money. There's no fee. They're not drawing any fee income from most annuities. All right. And so I think once people understand that most annuities are not even fee products, they can be a lot more comfortable. But there's been so much misinformation out there. You know, the guy on TV, they got nosebleed level fees. He's talking about variable annuities, but variable annuities are in the stock market and they can guarantee that you don't lose money in the stock market. That would be expensive, I would think. You know, I own a couple of variable, but most of my annuities are the non-fee type. They're the income annuities. They're not a fee annuity.
Hey, Tom, I understand there's either you've got a new book and it's kind of more directed towards young people who wants to be a millionaire. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So this is a book, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? This is really for people, 20 to 45 years of age. And all I did was I have 4 kids and I've watched a lot of their friends do some really dumb things with money. And so I just put into a book everything I've trained my kids on how to handle money and how to, be responsible and everything, and how simple it is in America today to become a millionaire. In fact, I'm on the record saying almost every single American could be a millionaire except for 2 simple things. Number 1, they spend way too much money on their cars. And number 2, they get divorced. So the moral of the story, drive a used car and stick with your first spouse. Now, I say that a little tongue in cheek, but if you saw how much people are paying in car payments, it's unbelievable. And so I just added my new slide to my presentation, and it says, turn your car payment into $1 million. And I just show a $250 car payment, a $500 car payment, and a $1,000 car payment. If that was invested at 7% interest to help you instead of to hurt you, every one of those car payments would result in $1 million. And that the $1,000 a month would result in 5.4 million. And there are couples out there where both the husband and the wife have $1,000 a month car payments. Do you honestly think they know they're driving their $10.8 million retirement down the road? No. And it's just stupid. And so the most important thing, okay, yes, you want to make more money. Yes, you want to control your spending. But the most important thing is you want to put the majority of your money into appreciating assets, things that go up. Most people do the exact opposite. They buy cars and boats and RVs and jet skis. And even worse, they finance them. They put on a credit card or they do a car payment. So now they're paying interest on things that are going down in value. You will never get wealthy in America if you're consistently paying interest on things that go down in value. You want to put the majority of your money into things that go up in value. And if people would just think about it, you're 30 years from now, you're not even going to know what car you drove. It's not going to matter. And I tell people, stop trying to look wealthy and focus on becoming wealthy, because I believe, here's another thing. I found that 30 and 40-year-olds give up too soon. They say, I'm not going to make it. I'm not rich. I'm never going to get rich. Screw it. I'm going to buy the RV. Screw it. I'm going to buy the boat. Screw it. I'm going to buy the new truck. And so what I would do is, there's this thing called the rule of 72. That's how fast money doubles. You divide whatever your interest rate is into the number 72. It tells you how many years your money takes to double. So if you get 1% interest, it takes you 72 years to double your money. If you get 12%, it only takes you 6 years to double your money. I would use 7.2%. Because that's a fair rate of return and your money would double every decade. So let's say I'm sitting down with a 30-year-old couple They're frustrated. They've saved 150,000. I mean, they got money, but they just don't think they're getting there. And I say, no, here's how it works. You got 150,000 in your 30s. That's going to be 300,000 in your 40s, 600,000 in your 50s, 1.2 million in your 60s, 2.4 million in your 70s, 4.8 million in your 80s, 9.6 million in your 90s. That's just that money. You're going to be saving and investing. You should have many, many, many millions of dollars, but people give up too soon. You're not going to be rich in your 30s and 40s. I wasn't in. No, but nobody is except, 1 out of 1 million people. All right. But you will become wealthy in your 60s, 70s, and 80s if you do the work in your 20s, 30s, and 40s. And that's kind of what the book is about, showing people how, yes, they can become a millionaire. It's very simple, but you got to stay disciplined. And it's what you do in your 20s, 30s, and 40s that allows you to become a multimillionaire in your 60s and 70s.
Very true.
Sold me. I'm going to get one for my kids because my oldest is 22. He's about to get out of college. Where can we get this book?
So I'm on Amazon, but you can also, if you go to tomhegna.com, I pay for the shipping on that book at tomhegna.com. Amazon, I don't pay for the shipping, but either one, I'm pretty easy to find, tomhegna.com.
All right. I'm heading there after we get done here.
Tom, I got to get that book for sure. My kids need that kind of education, so I appreciate that. Hey, for financial advisors listening who want to increase their impact, what's the number one thing that they should focus on when it comes to client relationships?
Well, look, I think that advisors have to invest in their own education more. I always encourage advisors to become a master of their profession. But it takes 10,000 hours to become a master. I've done this for over 10,000 hours, and I just see too many advisors not putting in the time to study, to read, to learn. I was talking about how to handle objections. I'm down here in Florida doing a meeting for Libra, and I went over handling objections yesterday. And I said the number one best way to handle objections is to know your stuff. You got to know your products inside and out. What's guaranteed? What's not guaranteed? How does that index work? How does that index work? How does that cap work? How does that reset work? You got to know that. And if you don't know it, spend time with the product wholesalers that come in your office. Spend time with them, but become an expert. When I went over to New York Life as an annuity wholesaler, I asked them to send me every single booklet, brochure, prospectus, statement of additional. They sent me a big, huge box. And I went through every one of those documents with a yellow highlighter. And what's this? Why is this? This doesn't match up here. What does this mean over here? I don't understand this. Can you explain this to me? Because if I'm going to represent something, I got to know it. I don't just need to know it up here. I need to know it down here. And I think too many agents don't know things down here. And you do that through repetition. You do that through reading and studying and watching. I've got Tom Hegna on demand where I can get them smart fast, but they got to take some time. It takes time. I watched the Kinder Brothers over and over. I was listening to audiobooks from MDRT while I was driving. I turned my downtime into learning time, traffic time into learning time, workout time into learning time. You got to do stuff like that because you can get smart fast or you can get smart slow. But I'd encourage you to get smart fast and use resources of people who are more knowledgeable than you. That's what I did. I mean, I learned from Joe Jordan. I learned from the Kinder Brothers. I learned from Ted Kilkuski. I wouldn't be here without those guys. Okay. You got to know your stuff.
Get smart. I like it.
Yeah. And we don't have excuses these days because it's a lot easier to get information now than it was 20, 30 years ago. So.
Hey, Tom, this is great stuff. Thank you so much for the time and thanks so much for your insight and education. We'll definitely reach out to get that book from you and we appreciate it. Any final comments?
Look, I appreciate you taking the time to have me. I'm heading to New York right now. I'm going to film like 10 segments for CNBC. Yep. So if any of your listeners ever want to be on CNBC or Fox Business, I can probably help them do that.
Awesome.
So that's what I'm heading right to the airport as soon as we're done here.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone. And for everyone out there, I'm Eric Alvarado along with Mr. Ted Hikes. This has been CBS Spotlight, your friendly conversation for insurance and wealth management come together. Thanks for tuning in. If you found this helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.
And give us that 5-star rating. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Eric.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom.
All right. Thanks, guys. I can get them smart fast, but they got to take some time. It takes time. I watched the Kinder Brothers over and over. I was listening to audiobooks from MDRT while I was driving. I turned my downtime into learning time, traffic time into learning time, workout time into learning time. You got to do stuff like that because you can get smart fast or you can get smart slow. But I'd encourage you to get smart fast and use resources of people who are who are more knowledgeable than you. That's what I did. I mean, I learned from Joe Jordan. I learned from the Kinder brothers. I learned from Ted Kilkuski. I wouldn't be here without those guys. Okay. You got to know your stuff.
Get smart. I like it.
Yeah. And we don't have excuses these days because it's a lot easier to get information now than it was 20, 30 years ago. So.
Hey, Tom, this is great stuff. Thank you so much for the time and thanks so much for your insight and education. We'll definitely reach out to get that book from you and we appreciate it. Any final comments?
Look, I appreciate you taking the time to have me. I'm heading to New York right now. I'm going to film like 10 segments for CNBC. Yep. So if any of your listeners ever want to be on CNBC or Fox Business, I can probably help them do that.
Awesome.
So that's what I'm heading right to the airport as soon as we're done here.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone. And for everyone out there, I'm Eric Alvarado along with Mr. Ted Hikes. This has been CBS Spotlight, your friendly conversation for insurance and wealth management come together. Thanks for tuning in. If you found this helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.
And give us that 5-star rating. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Eric.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom.
All right. Thanks, guys.